Hey, good morning. It's Dr. James. I do hope and pray this message finds you and your loved ones peaceful, thriving, and well. And this morning's message is related to the adage that you often hear in the spiritual circles that people often teach what it is they most need to learn. And this is absolutely the case for me. Oh my goodness. I want to talk today about self-love because this has probably been the greatest work of my life. 30 some odd years ago, my first trip to India, when I was really suffering from a deep lack of self-love, someone asked His Holiness the Dalai Lama, hey, can you help people in the West, particularly people in the US, who really struggle with self-love? And I'll never forget, His Holiness had this expression like, can you repeat the question? I don't understand. Or can the translator help me because I think I may have misinterpreted the question? Because in Buddhism, they don't have a word or a phrase or anything that aligns with not loving yourself. It is a primary tenet of Buddhism. Self-compassion, self-love, self-acceptance is the deep work. That's how you liberate yourself. That's how you go out and serve the world with your dharma and your purpose. And I remember being so struck with that because oh my gosh, that's the work that I have in front of me. I've spent the first 2 decades of my life struggling with self-love, doing all kinds of self-defeating, self-sabotage habits that literally almost broke me down and broke me apart and almost didn't allow me to come back together. So I continue to spend this last 35 plus years working on my Reclamation project. I want to share with you today, if this sounds familiar to you, that you have work or you teach in the space of self-love. The first thing that I'm always wonderfully aware of, and also sometimes painfully aware of, is how my status quo the first 20 years of my life was self-incriminating. I wasn't a good friend to myself. My language towards myself was diminishing and demeaning, fault-finding, guilty. Oh my goodness. I had to work and work and work to overcome that neuroplasticity, that rut I had driven in my mind, driven in my heart, driven in my psyche, that told me I wasn't worthy of self-love. So part of the work this last 30 plus years has been challenging that status quo. And if you at all have in your history a status quo of worthiness issues, not being enough, one of the most powerful practices is to literally just recognize it and then question it. Like, I'm going to name this. This is unworthiness, which is beginning of the taming process. It's a cognitive behavioral therapy technique as well to help us to unearth the truth. Because there's a pretty good chance this isn't the truth. In fact, I'm going to tell you 100%, it's not the truth. But we can develop these untruths over time based on what we hear, what we tell ourselves, what we witness. And then self-sabotage and self-diminishment become our way of being. They become a status quo. They become our conformity. So name it to tame it, to bring light in it, to love it. To bring light in it, to love it. Number 2, seek to be uncomfortable. That was probably my greatest, oh my goodness, lesson. Oh my gosh, I thought when I got to the place where I was beginning to love myself, that was going to be super comfortable. But what I know, I want to really understand that love is an evolution. It's an action. And throughout my day, throughout my life, on my path, because you and I have chosen a path that's beautifully and innately uncomfortable. To be wanting to shine our light, regardless of what's going on out there, regardless of what's going on in here, to exude a level of hope and faith in ourselves that literally wells up like a carbonated beverage and comes out and says, you know what, world? I'm doing the work. I'm teaching the work. I'm living the work. I'm owning my truth, learning how to love myself. Number 3, this is just a term that I've used a lot, mental floss. And it really comes down again that a lot of what it is that we have held ourselves against loving ourselves, not to be open to loving ourselves, is because we've held on to a belief that no longer serves us. At one time, it may not have even been a belief that we even knew of, but it was inflicted on us by an adult, a teacher, a parent, somebody, society, group think. And mentally that became stuck in us, literally just became a block into what it would mean to actually open up all the way and be a channel of love, a channel of healing, a channel of compassion. And how do we remove that? We remove that with the fourth piece, which is literally being a witness to the practices of your purpose, of your dharma. You get very clear about what makes you come alive, because that is love. You get very open to the idea that what brings you joy is a practice. You get very, very uncomfortable with the idea that what allows you to become fully alive and live your purpose and live your joy and express this level of self-love is a way of witnessing yourself and then changing your mind, changing a belief, changing your chemistry, changing your life in such a way that you develop an unparalleled, uncompromised, unconditional level of love. Being a student of what makes you come alive maybe is the sort of extra credit practice. Disciple, student. One of the things I remember from more of my religious childhood was that I heard disciple over and over again. I never really fully understood it, but I really started to understand the word discipline and disciple, meaning student. And then I realized that one of the most beautiful things I could do was really practice what it was that made me feel peace, what made me feel this level of love. And knowing that was going to be my primary spiritual practice. Teach it, learn it, repeat, day after day, moment by moment, thought by thought. It's a beautiful way to lead your life. Self-love always, always wins in you and as you, because it's the truth of who you are. Much love and all blessings. Bye for now.